Okay.
Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast, where leaders live with intention. I'm your host, Becky Plautz, and today we get to have two guests with us. I have Tara Parks and Kerri Spromberg with us. Say hello
Hello.
so they can hear your voice.
Hi.
We're doing a video, so if you're not watching the video and you're just listening to us, we'll try really hard to make sure that we're focusing on that you may not be able to see us, and we'll be describing our stories that we're sharing. But
Yes.
today we are going to have a conversation from the OP community. We're talking all around courageous leaps this month in Work on Purpose with Purpose. So today's the strategy hour, which means that I bring an acronym to the table. We have a conversation that just kind of lays out a framework on how we are living with intention. So I want to just talk about how this framework is really going to dive into the letters to give us a lens to reflect, to share, and to really connect with each other. But then also, you as a listener is going to feel that connection and see how it can relate to your own life as well. So, just remembering that this is a safe place to be able to open up and share. You don't need to have it all figured out or think of, about these questions as, oh, I have it all figured out and together. We're really about being real and raw here. So we're just kind of looking through the lens of where are we at right now in our lives. So I want to start by giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself so that we can again hear your voice a little bit more. So Kerri, I'll start with you. Go ahead and just introduce
Sure.
yourself and
Sure.
whatever you want to share about you.
My name is Kerri Spromberg, and I teach yoga. I've taught yoga now for many years, maybe 15 years. And I'm excited to be here this morning with Becky and Tara to talk about intention.
Yeah. And Kerri has been, both these ladies have been on the show. So I'll have it in the show notes, which episodes that they are linked on. Tara's been on a few of the group conversations,
Yeah.
virtually and in person. But Kerri has an interview as well, two, no, one or two
Two.
already on there that I'll have linked in the bio as well for you to make sure you get connected more with these ladies. Okay, so Tara,
Awesome.
how about you?
Yeah, I'm Tara Parks, and I have been a part of the OP community for about 3 years. I currently work, I'm a leader at the Buckle, so I work in retail and making people feel good by helping them pick out amazing outfits and making them feel good about who they are by what they wear. So that's kind of what I do right now.
I love it. And I never take the time to even share more about who I am. So I'm going to take a minute to say that. That I'm Becky Plautz. I am all about supporting women to see themselves differently, to trust and love the woman that they're becoming with intention, and also just show up with confidence. So we actually kicked it off behind the scenes. And there was a question of, do you get nervous? And one was like, no. And I was like, yes. And that's very true. Like I am someone that loves to have an outline. So this framework gives me some simplicity to have some structure. And then there's freedom in the conversation that we have. So it's not scripted. This is very much just, we're going to bring the acronym to the table and see how it flows for each of us. So let's dive into the conversation. So thinking about courageous leap as your frame, we're starting with the L. And for the acronym that I put together is listen to the nudges. So the L for leap is listen to the nudges, right? Because every leap begins with an inner whisper. And I've had some conversation already in this 1 week of the month that has been about it doesn't have to be like a big leap. We're not talking like huge, gigantic leaps over cliffs. It can be micro things that really make a big difference, right? So listening to the nudges is really about just getting started for me. Like that's what I think about when I'm listening to a nudge, listening to the whisper of like, this is something that I'm thinking about or moving towards or have a desire for. It's just starting to listen to the nudge. So, what small nudge has been kind of pulling at you or nudging you and whispering to you lately? Tara, I'll start with you.
Boy. Um, So I've had lots of nudges in the last 3 years, switched careers drastically, and have had a lot of experience with, dealing with menopause dealing with the mental health issues that come with menopause. Um, and it was very unexpected. And so because of that, there were nudges of like, am I in the right profession? Am I doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction right now for what's going to be healthy for me? And in the end, the giant, and it was a giant leap to leave what I was doing. I mean, I listened to that nudge, and the nudge became more of a shove over the cliff. It really did, in this instance, because I really wasn't given a lot of choice about the career. I was told, in a day at the end of the month when I didn't have my sales, well, if you can't hit your number by, in 2 days, that you should probably think of taking a leave of absence instead of, hey, we've noticed things haven't been quite right lately. Is there something that we can do to support you? No, it was not a conversation like that. So it was a very toxic environment and had been for a while. So I mean, it was a good nudge, shove. But that was a very courageous leap for me because I didn't have a plan at the time. I didn't have, a backup plan. I was uh, working in the speaker space at the time. I was kind of training and, going through some programs to create a speaking platform but really didn't have a complete business plan lined up. So that was really crazy for me. And then going back into the retail program where I'm at, I was previously with this company before I went to the last company. Absolutely love what I do, love helping women feel um, more self-fulfilled, just more, I don't know, courageous, more confident. That's the word, the C word I was looking for. Um, by, changing what they wear and helping them, especially when they're on a weight loss journey or they're on any kind of journey that has changed their physical appearance. And so I love being able to help women in that aspect and men for that matter. And so, kind of coming back full circle to where I've been, there were a lot of little nudges that said, hey, maybe this is where you should go again. Maybe this is what you should do. And in the end, I did, finally give in to that little nudge and decided to go in that direction. So it's been a lot of changes for me in the last 3 years, and a lot of leaps in different directions. For some people, that may be, getting shoved off a cliff was my first one, but they are little things that you listen to, and it's like, okay, well, maybe this is what I should be doing, or maybe this isn't what I should be doing. But listening to that inner voice, I think, and trusting your inner voice that's giving you those nudges is really important. Because if you don't listen to yourself, if you're not mindful of that voice, that inner voice, and what's going on inside, and listening to those nudges, you could really miss some big opportunities.
So do you feel like there's somewhere right now that you are stepping out of your comfort zone now that you're back in retail? Like, is there anything right now that your soul is like, step out?
Yeah, because sales was really putting me in massive anxiety. Hearing somebody tell me no is the part that I've always been really bad at,
Mm.
and not taking it personally. And so every single day that I go to work, I am proactively, showing product and showing outfits and proactively, leading conversations to try and find out what's going to be the best for these people. But that doesn't mean that they're going to like it. And it also doesn't mean that if they say no, that they're saying no to me. So every single day is, me listening to that nudge and stepping into discomfort by hearing those words, stepping into a management role again, and being in that space where I hadn't been in that space for so long, almost 8 years I'd been out of the space, where, I'm stepping into that management aspect again. So constantly, I'm being uncomfortable by having to have conversations from a manager's standpoint and not from a coaching standpoint. I mean, it's kind of a coaching situation, but it's really, learning again how to have those conversations, and all of it is uncomfortable for me right now. So,
Yeah, and being really neutral is what I hear,
yes,
coming with just here's what it is, here's what I have to offer,
yes,
is it going to help you or not?
yes.
I'm like, I feel like I need to go get a retail job so that I can get into that because as an entrepreneur, I'm like, I don't get a no unless I go and ask somebody,
Hmm.
right? So like, it's a really slower process versus what I'm feeling of like they come to the store possibly already looking for something, and as an entrepreneur I'm going out finding the people to ask and then letting them say no to me, and then it's like, okay, let's go find more people to ask. If it's not for them, who else is it for? So
Right.
yeah, there's a lot of strength building like at a rapid rate, I feel like, to have a sales position in retail where you're actively going for that, hopefully
Yeah.
yes, but you're going to get a lot more no's,
Hmm.
right?
Mhm.
And as you
Interesting, yeah.
grow, as you learn, but part of the Buckles culture is that proactively, outfitting people, proactively suggestive, selling,
Hmm.
setting up a fitting room with all the things that somebody needs, and so, or that you personally would use, in an outfit. If somebody's looking for something, you're adding the necklace, you're adding the suggestion of a belt, you're adding the suggestion of this, because most of us in the normal world, who aren't in retail, aren't thinking of that when we're going to a store. We're going to a store for one
Right.
thing.
Mhm.
We've got that on our mind. But realistically, if somebody can suggest to you, I mean, imagine you were a plumber, right? And or a regular homeowner, and you're putting together, you're fixing your toilet, okay, and you go to the hardware store and you say, hey, I need a new handle for my toilet, and the guy just gives you a handle, and that's great, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you know
How to use it.
he fulfilled the need that you went there for. But now imagine the situation where you go to the hardware store, and you ask the guy for a toilet handle, and now he says, well, okay, what are you fixing on your toilet? And he starts to ask you a few questions about your problem and what it is that you're trying to fix and what it is that you're trying to do. And now it turns out that you don't just need the handle for your toilet, you actually need the string that goes inside, you need the little ball thing, or maybe there's a leak somewhere else and you need this whole thing. But at least the expert at the store had the foresight to ask you those questions, and that's where, service
Yeah.
really goes from just customer service to really customer experience. And
Hmm.
that's something that I spoke on a lot. And so the Buckle creates that experience for every guest, and that's part of their culture. And people who are unfamiliar with shopping at the Buckle, or people uh, who are afraid or uncomfortable with that kind of suggesting and that kind of creating an experience, are probably not a good fit for the Buckle. But that is part of what their structure is.
Hmm.
And every store leader and every person, that's how they make their living there.
And I hear it very much as, again, listening to those nudges. Like you are actively listening to the nudges in the present moment as someone's going through. I'm in here for a quick pair of shorts. Okay, great. What are you going, where are you going to wear these shorts? Are you going on vacation? You're asking questions for them to open up and share more about like what is the experience they're going to have with this product,
Hmm.
so that you can think outside the box and think further. And I love that you would use the word foresight, further than just the very specific thought that they had about why they wanted to step in the door,
Right.
and give ideas, because you are very much just listening to the nudges of like, oh, this would look really great with this, and then helping them pair things together. So you're
Right.
using that, the listening a lot in your profession right now.
Yeah.
So it's strengthening
It
that.
sounds like you're
Yeah.
teaching too. So
Hmm.
it sounds a lot. You're
Mhm.
teaching a lot, right? You're teaching what works for different people, different body type, style, what would work on certain temperatures of their vacation.
Absolutely.
especially with your comparison with the handle with the toilet.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's
it's
true.
Interesting.
it's going much deeper than what people think of when they think of retail. They think of just a store, and many stores are like that. You are a self shopper. That's not, you don't get an
Right.
experience, but at the Buckle is more like a boutique where they're hopefully boutiques, most boutiques will hold your hand and kind of take you through. If somebody comes in and
Because you'll miss
says,
something if they don't.
Yeah.
well, exactly.
Yeah, true.
And I've had, guests where they've said, I'm getting divorced, or I just got divorced, and they're ready for a whole new look. And, you have to be ready and willing to be able to explore new things from them, except, despite what they're wearing, despite what they're doing, you have to be able to like step outside of your own comfort zone and really, expand that vision for them depending on what their life's situation is. So it's a lot of fun. And yes, it's a daily challenge. Lots of listening to those nudges.
You know what's interesting is that I think about what I wear and how I feel in different outfits. So sometimes you put on this outfit and you're like, oh, I just don't feel comfortable in it, whether it's your body has changed or maybe they shrunk or whatever. So I can see what you mean with feeling more confident stepping into an outfit and then how that would nudge you maybe towards your intention
Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah,
little more. What's my intention to feel good in my body?
absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Great perspective.
Yeah. So I get to listen to those nudges all the time.
I love that. Okay, so Carrie, how about you? Do you so the question was, what small nudges have you been, pulled to lately
Yes.
and
So
listening to that?
okay, so nudges are interesting for me in the way that I always feel like, what do they feel like? What do my nudges feel like? Because I could think something, although to me, nudges always go a little bit further into my body where I can feel like an urge or a flutter to change something. So if we think about nudges, where do they show up? Are they different for everybody? Great question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, depending how deep they go, like
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah, so I think maybe sometimes it's important to pay attention to our nudges and what those feel like in our body. And is it a thought? And then how can we connect the thought to the body?
Mm.
This was a nudge for me to come in today and be on a podcast. And I feel like when we can get together and connect like this in person, it's always so great in the way that we're able to be present with one another and
Mm-hmm.
talk. And then I've been afraid to kind of sometimes come out on these podcasts because I get so into my head. And then I'm like, well, when I slow down and really think of my intention and go into my nudges are really to connect with people and allow people to grow. And when we do that, then we actually grow ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and then we're learning. So I think my most recent nudge was to come here today. And we all know that to get together as women, we're busy. We have busy schedules and we kind of pack everything in. And it's important to carve out our nudges and follow through with whatever those might look like. And like Becky said, they're not always monumentous, these big changes, although we have those too. Luckily, yeah, we do. And luckily, if we can trust ourselves mostly, like Tara had said, that's really what the nudge is all about. We get this feeling, and then how do we trust ourselves enough to step into that feeling? And it doesn't have to be the whole staircase, it could be a small change in perhaps being more mindful of how we start our car or drive from point A to point B. Just those little tiny things could drive a lot of change and a lot of learning within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And connecting what you just said about growing yourself, and your prime example of, it feels like a little nerve-wracking, or, whatever it feels like to come and speak, on a podcast, and also make time in our schedules to do that. But you had talked about how, oh, well, it's about helping people. That's your intention, is to help people grow. And you're doing that when you also know that it's for you.
Right. It's
Yes.
so true. It's such a double thing. And sometimes we don't think about it that way, right? We think about ourselves and what
Yeah.
we have to do and where we have to go and where we have to be. And we're missing out on this whole big connection piece being lost in our own head.
Well, yeah, and a lot of that could be right. I won't know what to say. I don't even know what the
I
conversation
know,
is
I know.
today. Gary's like, what are we talking?
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like,
this is
it's
it's very
trusting that.
unscripted. Yes, and I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think that that's where a lot of people um, get stuck in their heads. And I know that as a speaker, that is also something that creates massive discomfort for me. That's a huge nudge where I feel like people don't care. Like, why would they care about my story? Or my story's not the same as other people's. Like, my story is not that bad.
Mhm.
My story is not as bad as,
Yes.
this speaker, or this person's been through way more than I have. So why would people want to hear my story, or why would people want to listen to what I have to say? And so we definitely get stuck in our heads a lot that way. So I love this format as well. And, this is just that nudge, that reminder that I do have value. And no matter what it is that we're talking about, I don't need to have a script because everything's coming from the heart.
Yeah.
Becky's got an outline, a basic outline,
Mhm.
and has prepared, the acronym. But all of this is still coming from the heart. It's not about an academic response to, the questions. Um, because the awareness of those nudges is nothing academic. I mean, there's
Right.
nothing
Concrete. There's
no.
nothing, right? We can't really study a nudge.
Nope. Nope, not at all.
No, yes. So
And it's
true.
different for everybody. So
Right.
it's like, what that feels like. I mean, I love that you said that you feel that and you kind of pay attention to how it affects your body.
Right.
Because you're right. There are certain nudges where if people are, that can make people sick, right? There's things where in your life that you can actually physically be changed and become ill because things in your life are not going the right direction. And I feel like that's kind of where I was at 3 years ago when I made that gigantic cliff leap. To leave the job, was shoved, leap, whatever you want to call it. I think it was a little bit more shoved, but sometimes those things are very important to be able to have that awareness of what's going on in your body too. I love that, listening to that and how those affect because I know when I have a great day and when I've helped people at work that I feel lighter. Like I
Right.
feel just
Like you made a difference.
like I
Right.
made a
You had
difference, like I
purpose.
had an impact,
Yeah.
and it makes me feel so good. And, on the surface level, those things seem very superficial at
Mhm.
times, but they're really not. I mean, it's all part of self-care,
I agree
right?
with you. It all plays in, doesn't it?
Very much so.
Hmm.
So I love that you brought that up about just physically being aware of those nudges and listening and how that can affect you physically because that's really huge.
And
Mhm.
can't you say after that nudge and then you faced the fear, even though
Yes.
it came out of nowhere after you faced it,
Yes.
you're on the other side
Yes.
different and
Yes.
perhaps maybe even you grew. But it's probably
100%.
for the better.
100%.
Yeah.
That's why we started out by saying this is about the lens of reflect, share, and then
Yes.
connect. So we're reflecting on the question,
Hmm.
we're sharing what comes to mind in the present moment, and then we're connecting
Yes.
on how we're coming with our own reflections.
Right.
That's
Right.
why this model, this framework model is so powerful because it's freedom within a structure.
Right.
Hmm.
And it gives us room to just have context because we could talk about so many things, and that's why I have outlines to keep us on track a
No
little
kidding.
bit.
Yes. We all understand that.
Yeah, so that was all about the L, the listen to the nudge. Okay, so let's move into the E for our acronym. Let's have some dialogue around embracing the fear, which, right, that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about how that fear, that nudge, it really is about that we know that it matters. We know that it matters, that, it's not stopping us, right? If I think about myself for becoming a speaker, becoming someone that was doing a podcast in 2018 when all of that was happening in my life, it was about embracing fear for sure. It was about knowing
Mhm.
that it wasn't about me. It wasn't about how stupid I might sound or look or, the things that I would mess up on stage or any of those things. It was a shifting of my mind to know that I was embracing the fear because someone needed to hear what I was going to say. Someone,
Mhm.
including myself,
Yeah.
but it was also I was thinking too much about myself in those moments where I would let fear almost stop me,
Yes.
that I would be like, okay, remember, this isn't only about me. This is
Yes.
about the bigger picture. This is about the ripple effect that I make when I choose to show up courageously
Mhm.
Hmm.
and take a micro step and go out and do the thing, right?
Right.
So fear isn't about it being a stop sign, right?
No.
It is a protection, it's a mechanism, but it's not about a stop sign. It's about proving that we're stretching outside of our comfort zone. It's about
Absolutely.
knowing that what this is matters. That's the kind of fear I'm talking about embracing, right? So what fear are you learning to walk through right now, that instead of waiting to eliminate it, right? We're walking through it knowing that it matters.
Yeah. Um, I guess I'll start since
Go ahead.
the eyes are on me.
Shaking it up
Right
a
now,
bit.
right,
Going to you now.
right. So I think one thing that I'm embracing right now is not thinking I have it all figured out and really changing my picture on what I thought life would look like right now
Mm,
in the present moment for me. So with that is a little bit of fear because I think we all have a plan and plans are important. Although it's when I'm stepping into that picture where I have to step back and say, okay, I'm embracing that I don't have it all figured out and embrace what comes my way. So
mm.
we know that a lot of different things in our lives come and happen fast. And there's a level of trusting that whatever that looks like is meant to be for me. Even if it wasn't in my radar that I thought how my plan was going to go.
Yeah. I love that. I love not knowing that we don't have the full
Yeah,
picture. I think about a puzzle when I hear that, right?
yeah,
I think about a puzzle and I think about the pieces and how, yeah, sometimes, we aren't going to have the whole picture and that's okay. And the excitement of we get to find a piece,
right.
but we're still always, getting the bigger picture because it's
Yeah.
always evolving.
So I think I feel like I'm embracing the unknown that
Yeah.
comes my way, and that has been things that have happened in my life recently are things that I never would ever have planned or pictured, and out of character for some people too. So
Mm,
then it's a big embrace of, okay, well, there's something to learn here. There's something enlightening within this space, even though I don't have it figured out. That's really easy for me to say. But then to like do the work and act on that is very different. So it's really a lot of getting present and embracing the unknown every single day.
mm-hmm.
Even with a teenager, right? I have
Yeah.
a teenager in the house, and that's a lot of embracing things that I'm not sure what I'm walking into after school or or what I'm walking into on the context
Mhm.
of a conversation. And that's been interesting, and I understand where she's coming from because the teenager, she's in between these worlds of being a child and then of being an adult, and then how do we, she's not sure of her world right now and I'm not sure of my world in her world. It's changing for everybody in the
Yeah.
dynamics, and it's a lot of embracing and a lot of love and remembering that she's trying to figure this out just as much as I am.
Mm-hmm.
And where can we meet each other in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would I would have to say like ditto on that because I have a son who is 27, just had a baby and is going through a lot of changes within his relationship, had started a new job, um, and somehow I became the bad guy in what's happening in his life and hasn't spoken to me for 2 months,
That's hard.
to almost 3 months,
Yes.
and has kind of cut me off. And so just because as a parent,
That's hard.
I think knowing where you fall into those relationships is always an unknown. Because when you think that things are going to be the same and then they're not,
Yes.
and that's a very difficult thing to deal with because as a parent, you want to help, you want to support, and when they don't let you, that's very challenging. And embracing how that changes, and it's like, okay, do I just not help? And my fear is that, I push him further away by not helping. That you make the wrong choice as a parent. There's always things that you're thinking about. And I mean, like, I guess I assumed that once I got them to school, got them to hit 18, it's like, you know what, my job's done. I
Oh, what a
did my
misconception,
thing.
right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There
Yeah.
really is no end to
No.
that. Um, but the other fears that I have are really um, rooted in my relationship because I've been in a relationship for 9 years now, and my partner is amazing. I couldn't ask for a better partner, and there are times that I constantly have to remind myself that I deserve what is being given from this partner because I have to, and I fear that I can't give back what he's given to me. And so that's a challenge for me on a regular basis. He's more than I could have ever asked for, challenges me in ways that I never expected to be challenged. And yet, we're polar opposites on a lot of different viewpoints when it comes to politics and different things, have very different backgrounds. Uh, but at the same time, we mix in a way that is very unexpected. And so for me, a lot of the embracing the fear would be just the fear that I'm not measuring up to what he's giving and that I'm not able to give back. And so that plays into, my part of, career wise where I'm at, where I did not think that this is where I would be at now and trying to make sure that I'm measuring up and that I'm giving back equal amounts into the relationship and I'm consistently encouraged and reminded that yes I am because he's very happy in the relationship and we just had an amazing vacation that I didn't contribute financially to, and so there's just that imbalance sometimes that I am concerned about, and I don't need to be because he's not concerned. So if he's not concerned, then I
He's
should
not
Right,
keeping
right.
score.
no,
Right.
he's not. He's
Right.
not. And yet in the back of my head, that's a
Right.
fear that like is just kind of constantly there. And so that's something that I'm learning to embrace the love and the generous gift that is who he is.
Receiving.
Yes,
You're receiving.
receiving.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and that's been a very difficult thing to be able to accept, and something that I'm learning.
So I'm like, dang girl, let him
Yeah.
take you on vacation. Easier said than done. I know.
Right.
But I love that, right? Like thinking about what you're walking through and not waiting for this to like feel perfect, quote unquote perfect, feel ready, with both of the scenarios you're talking about with having adult children that are now living their own lives that you are like, but I want to be a part, and where does that lie? Instead of waiting, right? You're like, I'm just in it, trying to figure out where I'm at with this, right? And I even think about even going back to the first step, the nudges. If you feel the nudge to text your son something quirky,
Yeah.
something serious, something heartfelt, do it.
Yeah.
Follow the nudge. Whenever it is to him, about your grandbaby, whatever it is, follow the nudge and just be open to being at a distance or being by his side, whatever that looks like, right?
And that's what I've done is I've listened to my gut where it's like all of a sudden
Yeah.
I'll have a day and I'll be like, I haven't heard from them or I haven't, gotten any new updated pictures or something like that. And so then I reach out to my daughter-in-law and I reach out to my son and um, I don't want to create more discord between them and their relationship, but at the same time, I also don't want them to think that I've forgotten
That's
about them
important. That's
either.
really important.
So I will just leave a message. And my son has a very dangerous job, so I do like to make sure that he knows that I still love him regardless. And I think in the end,
That's
have
what
my fingers
matters.
crossed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eventually
Always
that
thinking
will,
positive things for
yes,
you,
that will, make the difference in the end. And, regardless of the lack of feedback,
You're not doing it for the feedback. You're doing it for,
right.
yeah,
Because it's
for
just
the
the
nudge,
right
for
The
thing
nudge
to
the
at
do.
right
your
thing to do.
heart.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Love that. Okay, let's move to the A in our acronym, which is ACT in alignment. So, right, we're talking about our values. We're talking about how our courage, right, when we feel the nudges, when we feel even like the fear around those nudges, now we get to know that there's courage that comes with that a lot of the times because it's tied to our values. What's truly important to us, it matches and it helps us with a sense of power to know like we can trust, we can move forward and make a choice that's going to be rooted in what we most value, and that can shift a little bit, but I really believe like we have core values, and I think they shift when we are focused on like who are we becoming next? Like where are we focused in who we're becoming and how those, they line up. So act in alignment. So when we're taking these bold steps, sometimes they're bold, right? They are feeling powerful because we feel like they matter. They match and align with what is true for us to our values system. So it's not reckless when we're doing that. It's really rooted in our values system. So that's what I think of when I think of act in alignment. So, what kind of aligned actions, would you say that you feel your next steps would be right now?
Well, for me and my example with my daughter, I should say our daughter, um, I have a lot of actions on mental health for teens, and so we set parameters on social media, and there are certain apps that we limit our time on or that she can't get. And many times I have to sit and reflect on my intention behind that. And sometimes she might feel that I don't trust her or that she's not a good kid. And she's a great kid and I trust her. It's the apps and the mental health that comes along with being on a phone and the applications. And I do explain that, although it's hard because that's how her friends are communicating and we're taking all of that into account. But just for me, I have to really act on my intention for her future, not right now necessarily for all the friends. And sometimes I feel like I'm parenting more than one child because there's such a strong friend group and these friends have it and she doesn't, and they're doing this in their house and we're not doing that in our house. And it's a lot of intention. Well, that doesn't matter what they're doing over here. It's what we're doing here. And my intention is right now to have you be a healthy human being and your brain is still developing. It's hard for me being my age going on social media, and it can be a hindrance for my own mental health. And I think we can all agree with that, or it could be a black hole sometimes. Um, so I think that's a lot of my actions behind that intention for her. Yeah.
And if you don't know, Carrie is very much like into learning about the brain and like you educate yourself very much around the efforts of having a healthy mind
Yes.
and body connection. So I can see how that's I could just think about how challenging that is. So like I know all of these things and like how to help like our family
Yes.
and like
And there's
walking that
science,
edge of
and
the
there's
like,
science that goes with it too. It's you know,
yeah.
like the nudge we can't really measure.
Mm-hmm.
Although, when we get down to the science of it for actions or for mental health, there really is a lot of science behind that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if we can go to that place.
More scientific.
Yeah, I don't know. But not always,
Not
because
motherhood,
our life
science.
is not always science, but I'm dealing with a lot of emotion. So maybe the emotion
Right.
the science can balance some of the emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
I think for me, the acting in alignment is a lot about choosing how I spend my free time and who I
Yes,
spend
that's
my free
big.
time with, and like who I surround myself with.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say, in the last 10 years, there's been a gigantic shift, um, intentionally slow, um, from the types of activities that I enjoy doing, but weren't really adding value to my life.
Yes.
And not that everything that you do has to add some sort of, measurable value
No,
or
thanks for that
whatever.
reminder. I
You
need to
know,
remember that
I mean,
actually.
we need to just have fun sometimes.
But maybe
Um,
that does add value to our life,
it
right? It
does, it
does.
does. And
It
letting
really
go.
does.
But there's certain times where we surround ourselves with people who we are like,
Mhm.
right? Like that's kind of our natural human instinct is
Absolutely.
to be around people who have similar values, who have
Mhm.
similar likes. And if you're in a place where you are trying to listen to those nudges, where you're trying to challenge and accept, that fear, um, when you're, in that place of change, where you need to really be able to step back from all of the things that are like what you like and be able to really kind of step out on your own. And
Mhm.
that's a really tough thing to do if you are around people who don't have the same mindset when it comes to change and when it comes to growth and when it comes to, really developing yourself as a human being. And everybody, I think, relationships serve a purpose in time, right? And some say that some people are like relationship for right now, some are for life. And I 100% agree with that. But I do think that those needs change, and that who you surround yourself with really makes a big difference. And so that's for me a very big um, acting in alignment. I was thinking to myself, if I were to have a girls' night, who would I, because my social circle has changed so much in the last few years. Like, gosh, who the heck would I invite, if I were going to have a girls' night? And I'm like, this lady right here
Yeah.
and my OP group would be that
I
circle.
wasn't
That's
expecting you to
beautiful,
say
yeah.
that, but I'm super happy.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
awesome.
because it's just that you're that spiritual energy that like is just constantly positive, and you don't have a fixed mindset.
Mhm.
Um, you don't.
No.
You might not think you do. I mean,
No.
but I mean, you are constantly evolving, and that's the kind of people that I want to be around. That's the kind of energy that I want to have in my life. And so, for me, acting in alignment is really about that social circle for me, and really choosing who and how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, and what is it that I'm doing in that time, to make sure that I'm actively listening to those nudges, and that I'm able to, challenge that fear when I need to, and that I have the courage to do that when it's necessary. So that's what acting in alignment looks like for me right now.
Yeah.
How about you, Becky?
I love that. Well, what I love about it is that, we are reflecting. It goes back again, it goes to the reflection. Like, because we do end up attracting like where we're at, people, we're mirrors.
Hmm.
So we're seeing so much with our kids and the people that we're around often. Like, when we don't like something, there's maybe something that we need to look at in ourselves, right? We're very much mirrors. So I love that you bring that up. Like when you're around like people and you're ready to break through and step out into this unknown space of there's more than just what we're doing right now. There's a future. There's a becoming that you are actively in with your values and all of those things that happens. And then you're right. Then it's a reflection. Where do I feel like I'm being challenged in a really healthy way?
Right.
Where do I feel like I'm heard, I'm seen, and even in the messy stuff, when we're meeting people in the middle of that messy place where we're like, we're all figuring it out. Where are we getting grace? Where are we getting compassion? I know you love compassion. Where are we getting these things that, we need as human beings, and that we get our feet to the fire and we get challenged by how we're acting in alignment with our values, not
Right.
just acting because we can, but because it's in alignment with where we're going and who we're becoming, and that we're in environments that support that. So I love that you brought that up, because that's a huge part of, I'll just say confidence in action. You're building confidence, you're moving forward, you're going towards something that feels very real and alive for you in the moment, and you need support systems for that. So the P, my friends, is about power and partnership.
There you go. Wow.
So how community, how support really supports us in taking these quote unquote leaps, right, and making these steps that could feel very far away from where we are today. That when we have support, when we're making these leaps, it really amplifies through the care, through the support and the encouragement to know, like, even if you fall, even if you trip, even if you stumble along the way, you're still making progress, because you can see, I made a different choice. I'm not living in this insanity loop of doing the same things. They're not
Right.
making a difference,
Right.
right? You're listening to your nudges. You're embracing that it's really uncomfortable and I'm not really sure, other than that it matters. It keeps coming to me. I'm following this. And then you're acting on that because it's in alignment, because you're doing this reflection to know that it makes a difference. And then having the people to support you, to know, like, I'm being seen in this really raw moment that matters for your growth. So, power in partnership. So, who or what community, and Tara, you were just touching on that,
Yes.
helps you hold the courage to keep going on your journey?
Definitely the OP community has been that sounding board, has been that support group for me when I am struggling with, confidence in myself, confidence in the direction that I'm going, um, confidence in dealing with all the menopausal crap, um, if I can say that. And there's just so much. And, when we think that we get to a certain point in life where things should be easy, especially as a woman, there's these things called hormones
Yes.
that have a mind of their own. And realistically, we have no control
Yeah.
over what is happening, or at least very little control. It takes a lot of education to be able to understand how, what we're doing affects our hormones and what we can do to affect those changes. And there's just a lot of stuff. And the OP community has really been that support and that sounding board for me. And I appreciate everything that everybody brings to the table, because for the few minutes that we chat at the beginning of an action hour, or that we can get together and communicate and support each other on a podcast, and dig into some really soul deep types of conversations. um, Sometimes it doesn't need to be a long conversation. Sometimes it just needs to be that little quick reminder, enough to kind of boost your confidence for the rest of the day, and just to give you that little nudge, that you're going in the right direction, and then listening to those nudges, and, kind of going through that whole leap process again. That's to me huge.
Well, I want to point out the beginning, you told everyone you've been in OP for 3 years.
Yes.
So, right, it sounds like, oh my gosh, that sounds so easy to just like tap in, get connected, and like do those things. And it's been already a journey, right?
Yeah.
Like little by little. And I want to point out the power in the consistency, because not that you're there every day or every week even, but when you do get reconnected, you already know the culture, you already know the community
Mhm.
energy.
Yes.
Like you said, before this, that environment that is there to support you in whatever you're going through. And it may be called work on purpose with purpose, but the work is self work.
Yes.
The work is about personal self development, spiritual growth, whatever you want to call it. And you're doing that little by little, even if it's only right when you're able to come in for the 10 minutes at the beginning, because you're showing up and being seen by somebody.
Right. Right.
Whether it's in your car driving to an appointment, or it's sitting at home going, I don't really have anything on the schedule today, I think I'm gonna go shower. How about that?
Right.
Right.
And it's about going somewhere that the community, the people that show up in there, that hold space for you, it is about your growth. It isn't about judgment of what are you doing.
No.
It's
Oh,
all
no.
about who you're becoming and how you're taking action today that's in alignment with your soul and who you are.
Absolutely.
So the consistency thing is a big thing. Not every day consistent, but knowing that it's been an ongoing process of you trusting yourself to just tap in, connected, and keep going.
And, while I was working from home, that was something that kept me connected throughout the day, focused on, what I needed to kind of accomplish so that I felt like I was accomplishing something by the end of the day. Because when you work from home, when you work and you're an entrepreneur, there's very little guideline, right? There's not,
Lots of
I
free.
mean, there's tons of leeway. So there's lots of things that can distract us in a day. And so trying to find a way to continually focus my attention was really important, and that OP community, really provided that for me. I've only been in this role with the Buckle now for like 4 months. So I started back in June, and I miss those daily interactions or those weekly interactions. There's some weeks where I can still get in and connect. But if it's my day off, that connection hour might actually be a nap. That action hour is a nap. And so, but I miss that regularity of that. But I was pretty regular up until that point. And that you're right, that energy, you kind of learn what that energy is. And so it's not a surprise every time you jump on. You're not starting from scratch. And it's definitely not a judgment about what you're doing in that hour.
Yeah.
It's really about supporting yourself in whatever decision that whatever nudge you're listening to that, you need to get in for that day. So I love that part of the OP community.
Yeah.
I second that with the OP community. I have not been involved as long as you. I think I'm less than a year in the OP community. I will say that I do work as an entrepreneur, and it has held me accountable to my deadlines. And
That's good.
that's what I do really love. So I'll have an accountability partner, or sometimes Becky will check in with me and just say, hey, just check in on where you're at with that goal. And then you set your own goals. And then you have this community that supports you within that realm of whatever it is you're working on. So it is really a beautiful community from that standpoint. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else
Yeah.
for you though? Outside of OP?
Outside of OP.
Yeah.
My friends, I mean, I think I have friends from all different walks of life, and I learn something from every one of them. I really do. And I learn different perspectives all the time from different people. So I try to keep myself open to really learn from other people. And as I learn from them, I learn more about myself and maybe my own. When I get quiet, like you were talking about, Tara, when you get quiet, you can kind of figure out what is my intention. And you can't do that. No one can do that for you. It's only up to us. So there's a lot of reflection and mindfulness that goes into what is it that I'm doing out here in the world? What is it that I want to do, and how do I feel in certain instances? And it is important with what we watch on TV and who we surround ourselves with, and even what we eat feeds our souls. So it's just also connected, and it's a constant learning process. Like there is no direct path to our intention. And I think that's where the embracing comes in, is kind of embrace our messy, beautiful life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of so for me, I'll wrap up by saying that the power in partnership too, a big part of like courage and moving forward over the last couple years for me has been my partnership with my higher power too. Like
Yeah.
that partnership and trusting, like, I don't know what today's, gonna hold, but trusting that I am acting in alignment. I am,
Absolutely.
following that fear to know that it matters. I'm feeling unsure because of a certain reason. Like a bigger picture has been really important for me to just, again, remember it isn't about me. It's about me in the moment of like, oh, I'm feeling this. And then I want to say F the feeling and do it anyway.
Right.
And do it anyway because it matters on a larger scale than just how I'm feeling right now. Now, I will also say that I've been really practicing listening to my body and how I'm feeling in that way to know how to move forward. But the partnership that has been really pivotal for me in the last year, because over the summer I also did 90 days straight in the Bible, and that was brand new for me. And now I'm doing Bible in a year. So like that partnership in just getting in scripture has been really important for me to just also remember things could be way worse than my life is from the
It
stories.
connects us to our heart, right? The
Yeah.
higher power always connects us to
Yeah.
our heart and to our soul.
Yep.
So absolutely.
So
that's
I'm
a
definitely
lot.
feeling
Yeah.
more connected to that.
Yeah.
with that leap of anything that I'm doing, just like, okay,
Yeah.
it's giving me more peace in that way. So
Because we're never alone.
yeah, exactly. That was actually a note I have on here is also remembering, right, that when we take these leaps that we're never leaping alone.
No, we never are.
Never. So this is why we gather also. This is why I love bringing community. I love bringing people together to get hair out of my mouth, to to share, how we are all on different paths, but we're all growing. We're all focused on like how, and us sitting here are intentionally focused on like, what are we doing in the world today? Like, how are we making a difference? How are we impacting? And you showing up here is a big part of that. So I want to say thank you for taking the time into your schedules, bringing it in here, coming in person to hang out and sharing your hearts and where you're at on your journey. It always means so much to me to do that with you. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah,
It was great.
absolutely.
Yay. So I want to just remind our listeners, well, and you ladies, that this is a big part of why I brought the Confidence in Action retreat VIP experience together. So if you have been listening and you're like, oh, this sounds great. I want to be in person. I want to have community build me up. I want to have support in stepping out of my comfort zone. That's what my group coaching program is all about. Confidence in Action. It's about doing the things, but first from a foundation of knowing who you are and who you're becoming. And then that retreat is all about embodying it, practicing it, and being in a small group container of 6 women that are also doing the same thing. And you're holding each other and witnessing each other in that growth. So go check that out. Make sure that you share this with a friend. Thank you for listening to the Choose on Purpose podcast. I'm Becky Plautz, your host, and love yourself, live fearlessly, and do all things with purpose.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.